Ever felt like something inside you was holding you back, unsure how to talk to people or create real connections? The audiobook You're Not Shy reveals how to develop emotional intelligence and social skills in a practical and accessible way. You'll learn how to move with confidence through any social situation, create authentic relationships, and feel at ease both in your personal life and at work. Without these abilities, it's easy to miss life-changing chances and deep, meaningful bonds. With the right guidance, you can reshape your social life, grow in your career, and become a stronger, more fulfilled version of yourself. Shyness does not have to define who you are. Your path toward emotional intelligence and social mastery can start right now. Before we go any further, you are invited to download a free bundle that goes with this audiobook. Inside you'll find the ebook version of this book and an executive summary of all the chapters, with the key insights clearly highlighted. Research shows that learning through more than one format, for example listening and reading together, greatly improves understanding and memory over time. Click on the first link in the description to access your free bundle and make your learning more effective. At the moment it's free, but it won't stay that way forever, so make sure you claim it while it's still available. Picture a lively cafe in the early hours of the day. People are scattered around, eyes glued to their phones and laptops, rushing through emails, scrolling through social media, or trying to wake up with their first coffee. In the middle of all that noise and distraction, one person is different. She isn't frantically checking messages or chasing notifications. She is sitting quietly with a small notebook in front of her, pen resting gently between her fingers. Her gaze is calm but focused, with a clear spark of determination and a hint of hope. For her, this moment is the start of a new chapter. And just like her, you are about to begin your own journey. Emotional intelligence and social skills are not mysterious gifts reserved for a lucky few. They are learnable skills. With the right attitude and consistent practice, anyone can develop them, including you. This audiobook is designed to act as your guide through that transformation. Everything begins within you, with the way you see yourself and what you believe is possible. The first step toward mastering emotional intelligence and social skills is changing the way you think about growth. It means truly accepting that you can change, improve, and evolve. This way of thinking is called a growth mindset, and it is at the heart of real personal development. It is the difference between saying, "I'm just not good with people," and "I haven't learned how to handle social situations yet, but I can improve." When you adopt this mindset, social struggles stop being permanent labels and become skills you can slowly but surely build. As you move through this audiobook, it's important to have realistic expectations about what you can achieve in the short term. By the time you finish listening for the first time, you should have a clear idea of what emotional intelligence really is and why it matters so much in everyday life. You will understand how your emotions shape your thoughts and actions, and how they influence the way you relate to other people. You'll start to notice emotional patterns in yourself instead of feeling confused or overwhelmed by them. You will also begin to develop a growth mindset specifically around your social abilities. Instead of seeing social challenges as walls you can't climb, you'll start viewing them as training opportunities. Every interaction, every conversation, even the awkward ones, becomes a chance to practice and improve your skills. Perhaps most importantly, you will define some personal goals for your emotional and social development. These goals will act like a map, helping you decide where to focus your energy and how to track your progress over time. But what happens if you keep applying these ideas for months and years? The long-term benefits can be truly life-changing. With practice, you can expect to feel more self-aware and more confident when dealing with others. You'll move through complicated social situations more calmly and read social cues more accurately. Instead of reacting on autopilot, you'll be able to respond in more thoughtful and effective ways. Your relationships, both at home and at work, will likely become deeper and more satisfying. You'll learn to connect with people on a more genuine level, understand what they feel, and communicate what you feel in a clearer way. This can translate into closer friendships, more harmonious family dynamics, and more productive collaborations and partnerships in your professional life. Another powerful outcome is ongoing personal growth and stronger emotional resilience. As you become more aware of your own emotions and those of others, you'll be better prepared to handle stressful events. Situations that used to throw you off balance will feel more manageable. Conflicts that once seemed impossible to resolve will become occasions to learn, understand, and build healthier patterns. So what does this process actually involve? What are the key steps you'll be taking along the way? One of the first and most important is learning to treat yourself with kindness and dropping harsh self-judgment. At first, this might sound strange. If you want to change, shouldn't you be strict with yourself? In reality, constant self-criticism usually leads to defensiveness and resistance. When you approach yourself with compassion and understanding, you create the inner safety you need to look honestly at your strengths and weaknesses. That honest look is exactly what allows growth to happen. The next crucial step is to set clear, intentional goals for your development. Vague wishes like, "I want to be more confident," are hard to act on. Instead, you'll be encouraged to set goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. For example, you might decide to practice active listening in 3 conversations this week, or to notice and manage your emotional reactions during stressful moments at work. These types of goals give you something concrete to work toward. The third key element is committing to small, daily practices that gradually build your emotional intelligence. This could mean short mindfulness exercises where you simply observe your emotions, writing a few lines each day about how you felt and why, or deliberately trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes during conversations. The magic lies in consistency. Even small actions, when repeated day after day, can lead to big changes over time. There is a reason these steps come in this order. Self-compassion comes first because it gives you psychological safety. Without it, you're more likely to hide from your own mistakes or deny your weak points. But recognizing those weak points is essential if you want to learn. Clear goals come next because they give direction and motivation. Goals focus your attention and keep you moving even when progress feels slow or invisible. Daily practice is the final piece, because real change doesn't come from one big effort. It comes from many small actions repeated over and over. As we move deeper into this journey, it's important to be clear about what this audiobook is and what it is not. The goal is not perfection. You are not going to turn into a flawless social genius overnight. Instead, you are receiving a set of tools, strategies, and perspectives that will help you move through the complex world of human interaction with more confidence and clarity. Better emotional intelligence can improve your decisions, your leadership potential, and your overall satisfaction with life. In your personal world, it can bring richer relationships and a more stable inner life. Adopting a growth mindset is central to everything you are about to do. It means genuinely believing that you can get better at understanding emotions and handling social situations. This can be hard if you've spent years thinking of yourself as shy or socially awkward. Those labels can become cages if you take them as permanent truths. With a growth mindset, however, you start to see them as temporary descriptions of where you are now, not where you have to stay. A networking event that once scared you becomes a training ground for practicing conversation. A difficult talk you've been postponing turns into a chance to work on your emotional regulation and communication skills. As you prepare for these changes, it's essential to also build patience and compassion for yourself. Real change takes time, and setbacks are part of the process. You will make mistakes. Some conversations will feel awkward. Some days you will feel like you are moving backward. When that happens, remind yourself that learning any new skill involves trial and error. Treat yourself the way you would treat a good friend who is learning something new. Offer encouragement, not harsh criticism. Cultivating optimism and positive expectations can further support your progress. Believe that you are capable of improving and imagine the positive shifts you want to see in your life. This doesn't mean pretending everything is easy or ignoring challenges. It simply means facing difficulties with hope and determination instead of resignation. Finally, consider shaping a supportive environment around your journey. You might decide to share your goals with a trusted friend or family member who can cheer you on. You could join a group where people work on similar skills, or look for a mentor who has already developed strong emotional and social abilities. Surrounding yourself with people and resources that lift you up can make a huge difference. As we close this first part of your journey, take a moment to think about where you are right now and where you want to go. Just by choosing to listen to this audiobook, you have already taken an important first step. The road ahead may challenge you, but it also offers the promise of profound personal growth. Remember, every expert once started as a beginner. Every socially confident person you admire was once unsure and inexperienced. The real difference is that they chose to learn, to practice, and to keep going. In the next sections, we will explore practical techniques for knowing yourself better, managing your emotions, understanding others, and building stronger connections. For now, take a deep breath and acknowledge your courage in starting this process. You are not just consuming information. You are stepping into a new phase of your life, one where you can become more emotionally aware, socially skilled, and truly fulfilled. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to Momentum Audiobooks and turn on notifications so you don't miss more self-improvement advice that can accelerate your progress. If you find this content helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with friends who might benefit too. Your support really helps the channel grow. In this part we focus on really getting to know yourself. Have you ever felt as if you were a stranger inside your own body, as if your emotions spoke a language you didn't fully understand? You're not the only one. In the rush of everyday life it's very easy to lose contact with who we are inside and to feel detached from our inner world. But imagine for a moment that the real key to unlocking your emotional intelligence and your social abilities is already within you. Here we begin a true journey of self-discovery. It means slowly removing the layers of automatic habits and old stories in your mind, exploring the depth of your feelings, and starting to truly recognize the person you are at your core. It might sound intense or even a little frightening, but it is one of the most rewarding paths you can walk. Why is this so important? Why should you dedicate time and energy to knowing yourself? The answer is simple. Self-awareness is the foundation on which every other emotional and social skill is built. If you don't understand what you feel, why you react in certain ways, or what really matters to you, it becomes almost impossible to manage your emotions or create healthy, authentic relationships with other people. Knowing yourself gives you a map with which to navigate both your inner world and the world around you. Think of your mind and heart as a vast inner landscape. Parts of this territory are familiar and easy to walk through. Other areas are still unexplored, full of thoughts, memories, and emotions that you've never really examined. Self-discovery means deciding to explore this entire territory with curiosity and kindness, instead of judging yourself or trying to run away from what you find. One of the first tools you can use on this journey is simple reflection. Set aside a few quiet moments for yourself, away from distractions. Ask yourself questions like, what am I feeling right now? What has triggered this emotion? What do I really want in this situation? Write down your answers if it helps. The point isn't to find perfect solutions, but to start observing your inner world instead of moving on autopilot. Another powerful way to know yourself better is to notice recurring patterns in your life. Are there situations that always seem to make you anxious, defensive, or angry? Are there kinds of people you feel instantly comfortable with, and others who make you shut down? Looking at these patterns can reveal a lot about your needs, your fears, and the beliefs you hold about yourself and about others. You can also explore your values, the principles that guide your choices when no one is watching. Ask yourself, what is truly important to me? What would I never want to give up? What qualities do I admire most in other people? When your daily actions are aligned with your values, you feel more authentic and grounded. When there is a gap between what you believe in and what you actually do, inner tension and confusion often appear. A practical method that many people find useful is a personal version of a SWOT analysis. Start by identifying your strengths. What comes naturally to you? What abilities have you developed over the years? Maybe you are good at listening, maybe you learn quickly, or perhaps you have a strong sense of empathy or creativity. Recognizing your strengths is not about bragging. It's about seeing clearly what resources you already have. Then look honestly at your weaknesses. Maybe you find it hard to manage your time, or you avoid conflicts even when it would be better to speak up. Perhaps you get easily overwhelmed by stress. Seeing these areas clearly is not an excuse to criticize yourself, but an opportunity to understand where you can grow. The next step is to look at the external world and notice opportunities and threats. Opportunities are situations that could support your development, like a course that helps you build a skill you care about, a new role at work, or a friend who is willing to support you while you practice new habits. Threats are circumstances that could slow you down, like a toxic environment, people who constantly put you down, or routines that drain your energy. Once you have this picture in front of you, you can begin to design strategies. You can decide how to use your strengths, what you want to improve, which opportunities to take and how to protect yourself from the main threats. This kind of self-knowledge doesn't stay abstract. It turns into concrete decisions, such as which relationships to invest in, which projects to accept, and how to take care of your emotional balance. The more you practice this inner work, the more you will develop emotional awareness. You'll start to notice your feelings sooner, instead of realizing them only when they have already exploded. Over time you'll become able to predict your typical reactions in certain situations and to prepare yourself in advance. You will recognize the early signals of anger, anxiety, or sadness and activate strategies that help you stay centered instead of being overwhelmed. The ultimate goal of this process is deep self-understanding that leads to deliberate emotional management and more genuine social interactions. Imagine being so connected to yourself that you can move through complex social scenes calmly, say what you really think in a respectful way, and at the same time sense what others might be feeling. This level of self-awareness can change not only your relationships, but the entire way you experience life. Of course, self-discovery isn't always easy or pleasant. At times you might resist facing emotions that feel uncomfortable. It can be very tempting to ignore the parts of yourself that you don't like or that make you feel vulnerable. You may also feel tired or confused when you look too closely at your thoughts and reactions. When this happens, remember that you don't have to solve everything all at once. Take one small step at a time and keep approaching yourself with patience and kindness. Imagine yourself at the wheel of a ship in the middle of a powerful storm. Waves slam against the sides, the wind roars in your ears, and the sky looks heavy and threatening. In that moment, your safety doesn't depend only on how solid the boat is or how well you know the sea. What truly matters is your ability to stay calm, think clearly, and make wise decisions even while everything around you feels chaotic. Daily life often feels like that storm. The waves are work deadlines, family responsibilities, misunderstandings, unexpected problems, and all the little frustrations that pile up. The wind is made of worries, fears, and doubts that try to push you off course. You can't control the weather outside, but you can learn to steer your ship with a steady hand. This is what emotional control really means. Controlling your emotions does not mean pretending they don't exist or forcing yourself to feel nothing. It's not about becoming cold, robotic, or indifferent. True emotional regulation is the skill of recognizing what you feel, understanding why you feel it, and choosing how to respond instead of reacting automatically. It's the difference between being dragged around by your emotions and using them as information to guide your choices. Think about what happens when emotional control is missing. A moment of anger can explode into harsh words that leave deep scars. Fear can convince you to stay silent when you should speak up, or to back away from chances that could change your life for the better. Anxiety can make you overthink every little detail until you are paralyzed and unable to act. Afterwards you might regret your reactions, but by then the damage is already done. On the other hand, when you learn to regulate your emotions, new possibilities open up. Instead of shouting in anger, you can pause, breathe, and explain how you feel in a firm but respectful way. Instead of letting fear freeze you, you can acknowledge that you are scared and still choose to take a step forward. Instead of being swallowed by anxiety, you can calm your body and mind and focus on the next small action that moves you ahead. You don't eliminate emotions. You learn to sail with them. Your body plays a big role in this process. Emotions don't live only in your mind. They show up as a racing heart, tight shoulders, a knot in your stomach, or a dry throat. When you feel threatened, your nervous system prepares you to fight, run away, or shut down. This is useful in truly dangerous situations, but in everyday life it often leads to overreactions that don't really help. Learning to notice these physical signals is the first step toward choosing a different response. A simple but powerful technique is the pause. When you notice a strong emotion rising, give yourself a brief moment before you act or speak. You can take 3 slow, deep breaths, feeling the air fill your lungs and then leave your body. You can relax your jaw, your shoulders, or your hands. This tiny space allows your thinking mind to come back online, so your next move is guided by awareness rather than impulse. Another helpful tool is naming what you feel. Instead of saying, "I'm freaking out," you might say, "I'm feeling anxious," or "I'm feeling frustrated," or "I'm feeling hurt." Putting a clear label on your emotion often reduces its intensity. It reminds you that you are experiencing a feeling, but you are not that feeling. You can observe it, learn from it, and let it change without losing yourself. You can also practice reframing the situation that triggered your reaction. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? Is there another way to interpret what just happened? Maybe the colleague who seemed rude is simply stressed. Maybe the friend who didn't answer you quickly is busy, not rejecting you. Reframing doesn't mean making excuses for others, but it gives you more options than the first, automatic interpretation that appears in your mind. These strategies might sound simple, but they become powerful when you use them consistently. At first you may only remember to pause or breathe after the difficult moment has already passed. That's normal. Over time, with repetition, you will start to catch yourself earlier and earlier. You will spot the wave before it crashes and adjust your course with more ease. Daily habits also have a strong impact on emotional regulation. When you're exhausted, hungry, or overwhelmed, your ability to stay calm is naturally weaker. Taking care of your sleep, nutrition, and movement isn't just healthy living advice. It is a real investment in your emotional stability. A rested mind and a well-cared-for body can handle stress far better than a tired, neglected one. It's also important to find personal practices that help you release emotional tension. For some people this might be journaling about their day. For others it could be walking, stretching, meditating, listening to music, or talking with a trusted friend. These activities act like valves that slowly let pressure out, so emotions don't build up until they explode. As you work on emotional control, watch out for a common trap, trying to be perfect all the time. You will still have moments where you react before you think, where you say something you regret, or where you feel overwhelmed. That doesn't mean you failed. It simply means you are human. Each of these moments can become a lesson if you look back calmly later and ask yourself, what was I feeling, what triggered me, what could I try differently next time? Gradually you will notice that your inner storms don't knock you down as easily as before. You will still feel anger, fear, sadness, or frustration, but they won't own you in the same way. You'll be able to stay present in difficult conversations, to keep your voice steady when you want to stand up for yourself, and to remain kind even when others are tense or upset. This growing ability to manage your emotions will transform not only how you feel inside, but also how people respond to you. Others will begin to see you as someone stable, trustworthy, and grounded. They will feel safer opening up to you, working with you, or relying on you in challenging situations. Emotional control doesn't just help you survive the storms of life. It allows you to become a steady point of reference for the people around you. Remember, learning to steer your emotional ship is a journey, not a one-time decision. Every time you choose to pause instead of explode, to breathe instead of panic, to speak calmly instead of attack or withdraw, you are strengthening this crucial skill. Over time these small choices add up, and you realize that even in rough waters, you are no longer at the mercy of every passing wave. You are the one holding the wheel. Once you begin to understand your own emotions and manage them more wisely, a new door opens in front of you, the door that leads toward understanding other people. Emotional intelligence is not just something that happens inside your own mind. It is also about how you move through the world, how you relate to others, and how you participate in the invisible web of human connections that surrounds you every day. Think about the people you admire most in your life. Maybe it is a colleague who always seems to know how to calm a tense meeting. Maybe it is a friend who makes you feel heard every time you talk. Maybe it is a family member who knows how to support you without judging you. What these people usually have in common is empathy, the ability to tune into the feelings of others and respond in a caring and appropriate way. Empathy does not mean absorbing other people's pain or fixing all their problems. It is not about becoming a martyr or losing yourself in the emotions of those around you. True empathy is the capacity to sense what another person may be feeling, to imagine their point of view, and to let them know through your words and actions that their inner world matters to you. It is like learning another language, the language of unspoken feelings. There are different forms of empathy, and each one plays a role in your relationships. One form is emotional empathy, where you almost feel what the other person is feeling, as if their emotions echo inside you. Another form is cognitive empathy, where you might not feel the same emotion, but you can mentally step into their perspective and understand why they feel the way they do. Both are useful, and you can cultivate each of them with intention. A powerful way to practice empathy is through active listening. Most of the time, when someone speaks to us, we listen only halfway. Part of our attention is already planning what to say next, judging what we hear, or thinking about something completely different. Active listening means something very different. It means giving the other person your full presence, as if in that moment nothing else is more important than understanding them. When you listen actively, you turn your body toward the person, you make gentle eye contact if it feels appropriate, and you allow pauses without rushing to fill the silence. You notice their tone of voice, their posture, and the expressions on their face. You are not there to win a debate or to prove that you are right. You are there to grasp what their experience is like from the inside. Simple verbal cues can also show that you are truly listening. Phrases like "I see," "I understand," or "that sounds really hard" may seem small, but they help the other person feel recognized. You can reflect back what you have heard by saying something like "If I understood correctly, you are feeling," and then summarizing their main feeling or concern in your own words. This is not about repeating their exact sentences. It is about showing that their message has reached you. Curiosity is another essential ingredient in empathy. Instead of assuming that you already know what someone thinks or feels, you can ask open questions. You might ask, "What was that like for you?" or "What do you need most right now?" These questions invite the other person to share more of their inner experience. They also communicate respect, because you are not imposing your own interpretation on them. You are letting them define their own story. Of course, empathy has its challenges. Sometimes you may not agree with someone's choices or opinions. You might even feel hurt by what they have done. Empathy does not mean that you approve of everything or that you accept harmful behavior. Rather, it means that you are willing to see the human being behind the behavior. You can say to yourself, "I do not like what happened, but I want to understand what might have led them there." Setting healthy boundaries is actually part of mature empathy. If you try to take on everyone's emotions as if they were your own, you will quickly feel exhausted and resentful. It is important to remember that you can care deeply about someone without solving everything for them. You can listen, support, and encourage while still protecting your own energy and needs. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is to be present and honest, not to fix. Empathy also plays a crucial role in resolving conflicts. Think about an argument you have had in the past. Perhaps both sides were so focused on defending their views that no one was really listening anymore. When empathy enters the picture, something shifts. Instead of thinking, "How can I win this?" you begin to ask, "What is really hurting here, and what does the other person need to feel safe enough to lower their defenses?" By calmly expressing your own feelings and needs, and by genuinely listening to the other person's feelings and needs, you create space for solutions that respect both sides. This does not magically erase all disagreements, but it transforms the climate of the conversation. People stop being enemies and become partners who are trying to solve a problem together. You will also notice that empathy strengthens trust over time. When others realize that you do not mock their feelings, dismiss their fears, or use their confessions against them, they feel safer with you. They start to share more honestly, to come to you not only in moments of joy but also in times of difficulty. This level of trust cannot be bought or forced. It grows slowly, every time you show up with genuine presence and care. In professional settings, empathy is a powerful asset as well. Leaders who truly listen to their teams, who recognize the pressures people are under, and who consider the human impact of decisions, create workplaces where people feel valued. Colleagues who practice empathy communicate more clearly, collaborate more smoothly, and handle disagreements with more respect. Even in competitive environments, empathy can become a quiet superpower that sets you apart. To integrate empathy into your daily life, you can start with small steps. Choose one interaction each day where you consciously decide to listen more deeply. Before answering, pause and ask yourself, what might this person be feeling right now? How can I respond in a way that acknowledges their experience? You do not need long speeches. Often a simple sentence that validates someone's feelings can change the entire tone of an exchange. Over time, these small acts of empathy will reshape the way you move through the world. You will find yourself judging less and understanding more. You will notice that your relationships feel warmer and more solid. You may even feel a quiet sense of pride when you realize that people trust you with their stories. This is the natural result of seeing others not as obstacles or background characters, but as complex human beings with their own inner battles and dreams. Remember that empathy, just like any other skill, grows with practice. Some days it will feel easy and natural. Other days you might feel impatient, distracted, or overwhelmed by your own concerns. That is completely normal. When you notice that you are struggling to be empathetic, do not attack yourself. Instead, recognize that you are also human and that you too deserve understanding. Reconnecting with empathy for yourself will make it easier to extend empathy to others once again. By deepening your empathy, you are building a bridge between your inner world and the inner world of the people around you. Step by step, conversation by conversation, you are learning to walk across that bridge with more confidence and grace. This is one of the most beautiful expressions of emotional intelligence and a key to creating richer, more meaningful connections in every area of your life. Now that you are learning to understand yourself, regulate your emotions, and connect with others through empathy, it is time to focus on how you communicate. Communication is the bridge between your inner world and the outside world. You might have deep insights, kind intentions, and rich emotions, but if you cannot express them clearly, other people will never truly know who you are. Many people believe that communication is simply about talking well. In reality, effective communication is much more than speaking a lot or speaking loudly. It is the art of expressing your thoughts and feelings in a way that is honest, respectful, and understandable, while also remaining open to what others want to say. It is a constant exchange, not a one-way performance. Think for a moment about conversations that left you feeling satisfied and understood. Perhaps the other person looked at you with genuine interest, asked questions, and responded in a way that showed they had really heard you. You probably also felt free to share what you thought without fear of being attacked or judged. That sense of safety does not happen by accident. It is created through specific communication choices. One key skill is clarity. When emotions are involved, it is easy to fall into vague phrases, hints, or accusations. For example, you might say, "You never listen to me," when what you really mean is, "I feel ignored when you look at your phone while I am talking." The second sentence is clearer, more concrete, and more focused on your experience rather than on attacking the other person's character. Using I statements is a simple and powerful way to make your communication clearer and more constructive. Instead of starting with "you always" or "you never," you begin with "I feel," "I think," or "I need." For instance, you might say, "I feel hurt when plans change at the last minute without telling me," rather than "you are so unreliable." The first version shares your emotional reality and invites dialogue. The second version puts the other person on the defensive. Another essential aspect of communication is tone. The words you choose matter, but the way you say them can completely change their effect. A sentence that is neutral on paper can sound warm and caring or cold and aggressive depending on your tone of voice. When you want to communicate respectfully, it helps to slow down a little, breathe, and choose a tone that reflects your true intention. Non-verbal signals also speak loudly. Your facial expression, posture, and gestures all send messages, even when you are silent. If you say I am listening with your arms crossed, your eyes rolling, or your attention fixed on a screen, the other person will not feel heard. On the other hand, if you face them, relax your shoulders, and occasionally nod, they will sense that you are present and engaged. Assertiveness is another pillar of effective communication. Being assertive means expressing your needs, opinions, and feelings honestly and respectfully, without passively giving in and without aggressively imposing yourself. It is a balanced middle path between silence and attack. When you are assertive, you recognize that both your needs and the other person's needs are valid and deserve consideration. To practice assertiveness, you can start by identifying situations where you usually stay quiet even though something bothers you. Maybe a colleague repeatedly interrupts you, or a friend often shows up late. Instead of staying silent and building resentment, you can calmly say something like, "When I am interrupted, I find it hard to finish my thoughts. I would appreciate being able to complete what I am saying." This kind of message is clear, respectful, and focused on behavior rather than personality. At times, you will also need to say no. Many people struggle with this because they are afraid of disappointing others or causing conflict. Yet constantly saying yes when you want to say no leads to stress, exhaustion, and inauthentic relationships. A simple formula for saying no assertively is to be brief, honest, and kind. You might say, "I appreciate the invitation, but I do not have the energy to go out this week," or "I am grateful you thought of me, but I cannot take on another project right now." You are not attacking anyone. You are simply stating your limits. Questions are another powerful communication tool. Instead of assuming what others think or feel, you can ask them directly. You might say, "What do you think about this idea?" or "How did you feel about what happened earlier?" This opens the door to mutual understanding and prevents many misunderstandings that arise from guesswork and assumptions. Misunderstandings are inevitable, of course. No matter how careful you are, there will be times when your message does not land the way you intended, or when you misinterpret someone else's words. When this happens, the most constructive choice is to clarify instead of withdraw or attack. You can say, "I want to make sure I understood you correctly," or "When you said this, I heard it in this way. Is that what you meant?" Being willing to check your interpretation shows maturity and reduces unnecessary conflict. Apologizing sincerely is another part of healthy communication. There will be moments when you speak harshly, interrupt, or say something hurtful without wanting to. A genuine apology does not minimize what happened or blame the other person. It sounds like, "I am sorry for how I spoke earlier. I was stressed, but that does not justify my tone. I understand if you felt hurt. I will try to do better." This kind of apology acknowledges the impact of your behavior and shows a real intention to improve. Equally important is learning to receive feedback without collapsing or attacking. When someone points out something you did that bothered them, it is normal to feel defensive at first. But if you can breathe, listen, and look for any truth in what they are saying, you turn feedback into an opportunity for growth rather than a threat. You do not have to agree with everything, but you can thank them for their honesty and reflect on what might be useful for you. In social situations, conversational skills are the practical expression of everything we have discussed. You do not need brilliant jokes or extraordinary stories to be a good conversationalist. What truly matters is your ability to show interest, listen actively, and share your own thoughts in a simple and sincere way. Asking open questions, picking up on what others say, and offering small pieces of your own experience helps conversations flow naturally. Over time, as you strengthen these communication skills, you will notice concrete changes. Conflicts will still happen, but they will be less explosive and more solvable. You will feel more confident expressing who you are, and others will have an easier time understanding you. You will rely less on guessing and more on clear, respectful dialogue. In short, the bridge between your inner world and your environment will become more solid and reliable. Remember that communication, like every other aspect of emotional intelligence, is learned through practice. Every conversation is a chance to refine your skills just a little more. Some days you will stumble over your words or react more sharply than you want to. When that happens, return to your core intention to connect with honesty, respect, and empathy. From that place, you can always adjust, repair, and move forward. If this journey is helping you, do not forget that you can find more resources and guidance with Momentum Audiobooks, where you will discover other audiobooks and materials dedicated to your personal growth and emotional development. As your communication becomes clearer and more respectful, a natural question appears. How can you turn these inner changes into visible confidence in your everyday social life? Many people understand the theory but still feel nervous, shy, or insecure when it is time to actually speak, participate, or be seen by others. Social confidence is not a magical gift that some people receive at birth and others never get. It is the result of small experiences that slowly teach your mind and body that you are safe, even when you interact, make mistakes, or feel exposed. If you have spent years avoiding situations that scare you, your brain has learned that avoidance equals protection. Now you are going to gently teach it a new lesson. Think for a moment about the situations that trigger the most discomfort for you. Maybe it is walking into a room where you know nobody. Maybe it is starting a conversation instead of waiting for others to approach you. Perhaps it is speaking up in a meeting, sharing your opinion in a group, or joining social gatherings where you feel out of place. Each of these scenarios can become a training ground rather than a threat. A helpful way to build social confidence is to think in terms of gradual exposure. Instead of forcing yourself into the most frightening situation all at once, you create a kind of personal ladder. At the bottom are the easiest actions, the ones that feel slightly uncomfortable but still manageable. At the top are the more challenging steps that you will face only after you have built some experience. For example, if speaking in public terrifies you, your first step might simply be to make a brief comment in a small group discussion. Once that feels a little less scary, you could move on to sharing an idea in a work meeting, and later you might volunteer to give a short informal presentation. By climbing the ladder one step at a time, you give your nervous system space to adapt. What felt impossible slowly starts to feel familiar. As you take these steps, do not measure success only by how confident you felt in the moment. There will be times when your hands shake or your voice trembles. That does not mean you failed. The real success is that you showed up, stayed in the situation, and allowed yourself to practice. Every time you prove to yourself that you can feel discomfort and still act, you weaken the old belief that you must feel perfectly calm before doing anything new. It can be useful to plan small social experiments. A social experiment is a simple action you choose on purpose to stretch your comfort zone. For 1 week, you might decide to greet your neighbors instead of just nodding. Another week, you might challenge yourself to ask one open question in every conversation and really listen to the answer. Another experiment could be to accept one invitation that you would usually refuse, just to see what happens. The goal of these experiments is not to impress anyone. It is to collect new experiences and data. After each one, you can ask yourself, what did I fear would happen, what actually happened, what did I learn about myself through this process? You often discover that many of your worst predictions do not come true, and that even when things are awkward, you can survive and keep going. Your inner dialogue plays a crucial role in building social confidence. If you constantly tell yourself, I am boring, I always mess up, or nobody wants to talk to me, you are reinforcing the very insecurity you want to overcome. Instead, you can practice speaking to yourself like a supportive coach. Before a social situation, you might say, I am allowed to be nervous and I can still show up, or I do not have to be perfect, I just need to be present. These messages do not deny your fear. They simply add encouragement and realism. Body language also influences how confident you feel. Standing with your shoulders relaxed, your head slightly raised, and your chest open sends a signal both to others and to your own nervous system. You can think of it as giving your body a gentle instruction to stay grounded. It is not about forcing a fake posture, but about choosing a stance that supports your intention to be present and available rather than collapsed and hidden. It is important to remember that confidence does not mean being the loudest person in the room or dominating every conversation. Real confidence often looks quiet and steady. It is the calm person who listens, speaks when they have something to say, and does not apologize for existing. If you are naturally more reserved, you do not need to transform into someone completely different. You are simply learning to bring more of yourself into the space, instead of hiding in the background. You may also notice that your level of confidence changes depending on who you are with. Around close friends or family, you might feel relaxed and spontaneous, while in unfamiliar groups you feel stiff and tense. This is normal. Instead of judging yourself for this difference, you can use it as evidence that you do have the capacity to be at ease in social situations. The qualities you show in safe relationships can gradually be extended to new contexts. Setbacks are part of this process. There will be evenings when you go home thinking I sounded awkward or I talked too much or I did not say anything clever. When this happens, resist the impulse to replay the whole event in your head as a disaster. Ask yourself, what went better than I expected, what did I try that was new, what can I adjust next time? This kind of reflection transforms self-criticism into learning. Support from others can make a big difference. You might have one or two people in your life with whom you can share your goals for social growth. They do not need to solve anything for you. Their role is simply to encourage you, celebrate your progress, and remind you of your strengths when you forget them. If you do not have such people around you right now, remember that books, audiobooks, and communities focused on personal development can also provide a sense of companionship on this journey. Over time, as you keep practicing, you will realize that social situations that once felt terrifying now feel manageable, and those that were once merely manageable begin to feel natural. You may still feel a flutter of nerves from time to time, but it no longer stops you from acting. You start to trust that you can handle whatever small surprises or awkward moments arise. This growing social confidence will reflect back into every area of your life. You will find it easier to ask for what you need, to set boundaries, to make new friends, and to take opportunities that require visibility. Doors that once seemed closed will begin to open, not because the world has suddenly become easier, but because you now have the inner tools to walk through those doors. Remember, confidence is not about never feeling afraid. It is about building enough inner stability to move forward even while fear is present. Each step you take, each conversation you start, each small risk you accept is a brick in the foundation of the self-assured, socially capable person you are becoming. As you become more comfortable with yourself and more confident in social situations, your attention naturally turns to the quality of your relationships. Emotional intelligence is not just about handling single conversations better. It is also about building connections that are healthy, supportive, and aligned with who you really are over the long term. Take a moment to think about the people who are closest to you right now. Friends, family members, colleagues, maybe a partner. Some of these relationships probably give you a sense of warmth, trust, and encouragement. Others might drain your energy, confuse you, or leave you feeling unseen. Emotional growth invites you to look at these dynamics with honesty, not to blame anyone, but to understand what truly nourishes you. Healthy relationships are not perfect relationships. They still include misunderstandings, disagreements, and moments of tension. What makes them healthy is not the absence of problems, but the way those problems are handled. In a healthy connection, both people are willing to listen, to apologize when they are wrong, to respect boundaries, and to work together to find solutions. There is room for both honesty and kindness. One of the most powerful choices you can make is to surround yourself, as much as possible, with people who genuinely support your growth. These are the people who are happy when you take steps forward, who encourage you when you doubt yourself, and who can tell you difficult truths without trying to crush you. Being around such people strengthens your emotional resilience and helps you stay on your path even when life is challenging. At the same time, emotional intelligence asks you to recognize when certain relationships are consistently harmful. Maybe there is someone who often belittles you, manipulates you, or only appears when they need something. Maybe you have a recurring pattern where you always give and they always take. Not every difficult relationship has to end, but it is important to see clearly how these dynamics affect your mental and emotional well-being. Setting boundaries is a key skill here. A boundary is not a wall that shuts everyone out. It is a clear line that protects your dignity, your energy, and your values. For example, you might set a boundary around how much time you are willing to spend listening to constant complaints, or how you want to be spoken to during disagreements. At first, stating these boundaries may feel uncomfortable, especially if you are used to pleasing others. Over time, however, boundaries become a natural expression of self-respect. You can communicate boundaries in a calm and firm way. Instead of accusing someone, you describe your limit. You might say, "I am not available to talk late at night anymore, I need that time to rest, or I care about our relationship, but I cannot continue this conversation if voices are raised." When you follow through consistently, people learn how to relate to you in a more respectful way. Those who refuse to respect your boundaries may distance themselves, and although that can be painful, it also makes space for healthier connections. Romantic relationships are a powerful area where emotional intelligence and social skills are tested and refined. In an intimate partnership, your vulnerabilities, fears, and hopes are often more exposed. Good communication, empathy, and emotional regulation become essential to navigating closeness without losing yourself. This includes sharing your feelings honestly, listening deeply to your partner, and being willing to grow together rather than trying to control each other. Trust is the foundation of any deep relationship. It is built slowly, through consistent actions that show reliability, honesty, and care. You demonstrate trustworthiness when you keep your promises, when you speak sincerely even about uncomfortable topics, and when you protect what others confide in you. In turn, you learn to trust others by observing whether their words match their actions over time. In the workplace, relationships also play a crucial role in your emotional life. You spend many hours of your week with colleagues, managers, or clients. Being able to collaborate, handle conflict, and give and receive feedback respectfully can make the difference between a toxic environment and a supportive one. Even if you are not in a leadership role, your emotional intelligence can positively influence the atmosphere around you. Social networks and digital communication add another layer to modern relationships. Messages, comments, and posts can easily be misunderstood because they lack tone of voice and body language. Applying emotional intelligence online means pausing before reacting, reading messages with generosity instead of suspicion, and remembering that behind each screen there is a real human being with their own struggles and feelings. It is also important to pay attention to the balance between your social life and your need for solitude. Even the most sociable person needs moments of quiet to rest, reflect, and reconnect with themselves. Emotional maturity includes knowing when you need company and when you need space. Saying "I need some time alone to recharge" is not a rejection of others. It is a way of taking care of your inner world so that you can return to your relationships with more presence and kindness. As your relationships evolve, you will sometimes outgrow certain connections. People change, paths diverge, and what once felt right may no longer fit. Letting go of a friendship or limiting contact with a relative can be one of the hardest decisions you face. Yet holding on at any cost can prevent both of you from growing. Approaching these transitions with honesty, compassion, and respect allows you to honor what the relationship gave you while accepting that its form is changing. At the same time, new people will enter your life, often in unexpected ways. A casual acquaintance can become a close friend. A colleague can turn into a trusted ally. As you become more emotionally aware, you will recognize more quickly which relationships have the potential to be meaningful and which are better kept at a lighter, more distant level. You do not have to open your heart fully to everyone. You can choose carefully where to invest your emotional energy. In the end, the goal is not to have a huge number of connections, but to cultivate relationships that are real, mutual, and aligned with your values. A few genuine bonds can support you more than many superficial contacts. When you know yourself, communicate clearly, and respect both your needs and those of others, you create a network of relationships that not only accompany you through life, but also help you become the person you want to be. As your emotional skills grow, you begin to see that life will never be free of challenges. Problems, losses, changes, and disappointments are part of every human story. The difference is not between people who have an easy life and people who do not. The real difference lies in how we respond when things do not go the way we hoped. Emotional resilience is the capacity to bend without breaking, to feel pain without losing yourself, and to keep moving even when your heart is tired. It does not mean ignoring your emotions or pretending that everything is fine when it is not. Instead, it means allowing yourself to feel what you feel while still trusting that you can slowly find your way forward. Think back to a difficult period in your life. Maybe you faced a breakup, a failure at work, a conflict with someone you loved, or a period of uncertainty about your future. At the time, it might have felt overwhelming, as if the discomfort would last forever. But here you are, listening to these words, with more experience and more strength than before. This alone is proof that you are more resilient than you sometimes believe. One pillar of resilience is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean liking what happened or giving up on change. It simply means recognizing reality as it is, instead of wasting energy fighting against the fact that it exists. When you say to yourself, this is the situation right now, even if I do not like it, you stop adding a second layer of suffering made of denial and resistance. From that place, you can use your emotional intelligence to decide how to respond. Another key element is self-compassion. When life is hard, many people attack themselves with harsh inner comments. They say things like I should be stronger, I am a failure, or everyone else is handling life better than me. This inner criticism does not make you stronger. It makes you more fragile. A compassionate inner voice sounds very different. It might say, this is really painful, anyone in my position would struggle, I am doing the best I can with the resources I have right now. You can think of self-compassion as the way a kind friend would speak to you if they could see your struggles. This does not mean you never take responsibility for your actions. It simply means that you stop treating yourself like an enemy and start treating yourself like an ally. When you stand on your own side, it becomes easier to learn from mistakes and to keep going even when progress is slow. Perspective is another tool that supports resilience. In the middle of a crisis, your mind tends to focus only on what is wrong. Everything else fades into the background. Gently expanding your perspective can help you see a bigger picture. You might ask yourself, what will this situation mean to me in a year? What am I learning through this experience? What strengths am I developing as I face this challenge? These questions do not erase the difficulty, but they can reveal hidden meanings and possibilities. Routines and habits also play a quiet but powerful role in your ability to bounce back. Small daily actions that nourish your body, mind, and heart act as anchors when external circumstances are unstable. Simple habits such as moving your body, eating in a way that supports your energy, getting enough sleep, and taking time for reflection or stillness can stabilize you from the inside. When storms arrive, these routines become supports that prevent you from being swept away completely. Resilience is not only an individual process. The relationships you cultivate matter as well. Having even one or two people you can turn to, people who can listen without judgment and remind you of your value, can make a huge difference. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of courage and wisdom. We are social beings. We are not meant to carry everything alone. There will be times when your usual strategies are not enough, and your emotional pain feels too heavy. In those moments, seeking professional support from a therapist, counselor, or coach can be an important act of self-care. Sharing your story with someone trained to listen deeply and to offer tools and guidance can accelerate your healing and help you avoid getting lost in patterns that keep you stuck. Another aspect of resilience is your ability to rewrite the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you define yourself only by your most painful experiences, you might start to believe, I am the one who always fails, or I am the one who is always left behind. These stories can become invisible cages. Emotional intelligence invites you to update your narrative. You can say, I have been through difficult experiences, and I am also someone who learns, who grows, and who continues to show up. You can reinforce this new story by noticing your small victories. Maybe you handled a conversation better than you would have a year ago. Maybe you chose a healthier response to stress. Maybe you simply got out of bed on a day when everything felt heavy. These actions are not trivial. They are signs that you are actively shaping the person you are becoming. Gratitude can also support your resilience. Gratitude is not about forcing yourself to be cheerful or denying what hurts. It is the practice of also recognizing what is still good, comforting, or beautiful in your life, even in the middle of difficulty. You might be grateful for a supportive message from a friend, a quiet moment with a cup of coffee, a ray of sunlight through the window, or the fact that you have tools and knowledge that you did not have in the past. Over time, resilience transforms your relationship with fear. You stop needing absolute certainty before you act. Instead, you begin to trust that whatever happens, you will be able to respond, learn, and adjust. This does not eliminate fear, but it prevents fear from being the main driver of your decisions. You move from what if everything goes wrong to what if I am more capable than I think. As your resilience grows, you become a source of stability not only for yourself but also for others. People may notice that you stay relatively calm in crises, that you can listen without panicking, and that you continue to look for constructive solutions even when things are hard. Your presence becomes reassuring, and your example shows that it is possible to face life's storms without collapsing. Remember that resilience is not a fixed trait you either have or do not have. It is a living process, built through experiences, choices, and attitudes over time. Every challenge you face is an invitation to practice. Some days you will feel strong and centered. Other days you will feel fragile and tired. Both kinds of days are part of the path. In those more difficult moments, return to the basics. Breathe slowly. Acknowledge what you feel. Speak to yourself with kindness. Reach out to someone you trust. Take one small step that moves you toward care instead of neglect. These simple actions done again and again weave a kind of inner safety net that will support you through future challenges. If you wish to deepen this journey, remember that Momentum Audiobooks offers more audiobooks and resources dedicated to personal development, emotional balance, and resilient living. Step by step, you are creating a life in which you are not defined by what happens to you, but by how you choose to respond. Up to this point, we have explored many inner skills: knowing yourself, regulating your emotions, understanding others, communicating clearly, building confidence, nurturing healthy relationships, and developing resilience. Now it is time to look at how all these elements come together in your everyday life and shape the person you are becoming. Emotional intelligence is not a separate activity that you practice only in special moments. It is a thread that weaves through everything you do. It influences how you start your day, how you respond to unexpected events, how you treat the people around you, and how you speak to yourself when no one else is listening. Little by little, it becomes part of your identity. Imagine a typical day lived with emotional awareness. You wake up and, instead of immediately diving into messages or worries, you take a brief moment to notice how you feel. Maybe you are rested, maybe you are tense, maybe you are sad for reasons you do not fully understand. Whatever is there, you acknowledge it without judging yourself. This simple act of checking in sets a different tone. You are not running away from your inner world. You are meeting it with presence. As the day unfolds, situations arise that would once have triggered automatic reactions. A colleague sends a curt email. Traffic is worse than usual. A loved one seems distant or distracted. In the past, you might have instantly reacted with anger, anxiety, or withdrawal. Now, however, you are learning to pause. You notice your first impulse, you name what you feel, and you choose your response with more intention. Sometimes that response is a calm message, sometimes it is taking a short break to breathe, sometimes it is starting an honest conversation. You will not respond perfectly every time, and that is not the goal. The real change is that you are no longer entirely on autopilot. Even when you slip into old patterns, you are able to recognize it sooner, reflect on what happened, and adjust for the future. This flexible, forgiving attitude towards yourself is one of the clearest signs that your emotional intelligence is growing. Your inner dialogue also continues to transform. Instead of constantly criticizing yourself, you begin to cultivate a more balanced inner voice. When you succeed at something, you allow yourself to feel proud, even if the achievement seems small. When you struggle or make a mistake, you offer yourself understanding and encouragement instead of insults. Over time, This kinder way of speaking to yourself creates a deeper sense of safety inside you. You no longer need to prove your worth in every situation, because you know it does not depend on perfection. As your relationship with yourself becomes more stable, your external life gradually reflects this change. You may notice that some opportunities that once felt intimidating now seem within reach. You apply for a position that fits your abilities, you propose a project you care about, or you share your ideas more freely in meetings and collaborations. Even when the outcome is uncertain, you are willing to try because your sense of value is not completely tied to success or failure. Creativity often flourishes in this kind of emotional climate. When you are less busy defending yourself or hiding, you have more energy available for exploring, inventing, and expressing. New interests may emerge, or old passions may regain their strength. You might feel drawn to write, draw, learn a new skill, or experiment with ideas that previously felt too risky. Emotional intelligence does not only help you cope with problems. It also opens space for joy, curiosity, and growth. Your presence in the lives of others also changes. Friends, colleagues, and family members may start to notice that you listen more deeply, that you handle conflict with more calm, and that you are able to speak honestly without attacking. Some might even tell you that they feel more comfortable around you, or that your way of handling things inspires them. You become a quiet example of what it looks like to live with both courage and sensitivity. Of course, not everyone will respond in the same way. Some people may be surprised or even uncomfortable with your new boundaries, your clearer communication, or your growing self-respect. They might prefer the old version of you who always adapted, stayed silent, or took responsibility for everything. In those moments, emotional intelligence helps you stay grounded. You can listen to their reactions without automatically going back to old patterns. You can remind yourself that your growth is valid, even if not everyone understands it immediately. As you keep walking this path, it can be helpful to take time regularly to review your progress. You might look back over the last few months and ask yourself, what has changed in how I handle my emotions, what is different in how I relate to others, where do I see small but real improvements. Keeping a journal or reflecting in a quiet moment can help you see the steps you have taken that are easy to overlook in daily life. You may also want to set new intentions from time to time. Perhaps you decide that in the coming weeks you will focus on being more patient with yourself, or on practicing active listening more consistently, or on gently facing one specific fear that has been holding you back. These intentions do not have to be dramatic. What matters is that they keep you moving forward in a direction that feels meaningful to you. Remember that your journey is unique. It cannot be compared directly to anyone else's path. Some people will make rapid visible changes, while for others the transformation will be slower and more subtle. Both rhythms are valid. Emotional intelligence is not a race. It is a lifelong practice of becoming more aware, more honest, and more compassionate with yourself and with others. In the bigger picture, as more individuals develop these skills, the impact goes beyond personal well-being. Families, workplaces, communities, and even larger systems can shift when people interact with greater empathy, clarity, and responsibility. By doing your inner work, you are not only improving your own life. You are also contributing, in your own way, to a more understanding and humane world. As you listen to this part of the audiobook, take a moment to honor the effort you have already invested. You chose to reflect on yourself, to question old beliefs, and to experiment with new behaviors. These are not easy tasks. They require courage and perseverance. Even if you sometimes feel like you are moving slowly, you are still moving, and that movement matters. In the final part of this journey, we will bring together the main ideas you have explored so far and look at how you can continue to grow long after this audiobook ends. For now, let these words be a reminder that emotional intelligence is not something outside of you that you have to earn. It is a capacity that has always been inside you, waiting to be recognized, nurtured, and expressed more fully in everything you do. We have reached the final part of this journey together. By now, you have traveled through many important themes. You have learned to look within, to recognize and manage your emotions, to understand others more deeply, to communicate with clarity, to build confidence, to cultivate healthy relationships, and to develop resilience in the face of life's challenges. This is not a small achievement. It represents a profound investment in your growth as a person. As we close this audiobook, it is important to remember one central idea. Emotional intelligence is not a destination you arrive at once and for all. It is a living process, something that develops and transforms as you move through different seasons of life. There will be times when you feel strong, balanced, and in tune with yourself and with others. There will also be moments when old fears resurface, when you feel lost, or when you react in ways you thought you had left behind. None of this means you have failed. It simply means you are human and still learning. The tools and perspectives you have discovered here are like a backpack you can carry with you. Inside it, you have practices for self-awareness, methods for emotional regulation, ways to cultivate empathy, strategies for clear communication, and ideas for building confidence and resilience. You will not use all of them every day. Some will be more useful at certain times than others. What matters is that you know they are there, available whenever you need them. Take a moment now to reflect on what has resonated with you the most. Maybe you were particularly struck by the idea of speaking to yourself with kindness instead of harsh criticism. Maybe the practice of pausing to breathe before reacting has already changed some of your conversations. Perhaps the sections on boundaries, social confidence, or resilience opened a new perspective on situations you are currently facing. Whatever stood out to you, that is a sign of where your growth is most active right now. You do not need to remember every sentence from this audiobook. Instead, choose a few key ideas or practices that feel especially relevant to your life at this moment. You might decide, for example, to pay more attention to your emotions as they arise, to listen more deeply in conversations, or to gently challenge one limiting belief that has been holding you back. Small, consistent actions guided by your values will take you much further than a long list of theories that you never apply. It can be helpful to write down a simple personal commitment inspired by what you have learned. This commitment does not have to be dramatic or complicated. It might be something like I commit to treating myself more kindly when I make mistakes, or I commit to practicing active listening with the people I care about, or I commit to taking one small step each week that strengthens my social confidence. Put this sentence somewhere you can see it, and let it remind you of the direction you have chosen. Another important step is to accept that growth is rarely linear. You may experience periods of quick progress followed by plateaus or setbacks. On some days, you will surprise yourself with your ability to stay calm and present. On other days, you might feel as if you have gone backwards. When that happens, do not erase all the progress you have made. Instead, look at the situation with curiosity. Ask yourself, what triggered me, what did I need in that moment, what can I learn from this for next time? This attitude of gentle investigation will keep your development moving, even when things feel difficult. Remember too that emotional intelligence is not about becoming perfect or pleasing everyone. As you grow, some people will appreciate your changes, while others may feel unsettled by them. You might become less available for dynamics that exhaust you, more honest about what you feel, and more selective about where you invest your time and energy. This is a natural part of becoming more aligned with your true self. It may require courage, but it also creates space for more authentic, respectful, and fulfilling connections. You may find it useful to revisit this audiobook in the future. Each time you listen, you will be in a different place in your life, with new experiences and new questions. The same chapter that felt theoretical today might speak to you very directly a few months from now. Do not hesitate to return to specific sections when you need them, whether you are struggling with a difficult emotion, trying to handle a conflict, or simply wanting to reconnect with your long-term vision for yourself. Speaking of vision, take a moment to imagine the person you are becoming as you continue to practice emotional intelligence. Picture yourself a few years from now, moving through your days with greater inner stability and clarity. You wake up with a sense of connection to yourself. You handle stress with more calm. You speak honestly but kindly. You build relationships based on mutual respect and understanding. You trust yourself more, not because you think you will never make mistakes, but because you know you can learn from whatever happens. This future version of you is not a fantasy. It is the natural result of the choices you make, one day at a time. Every time you pause instead of reacting impulsively, every time you listen deeply, every time you speak to yourself with respect, every time you act in alignment with your values, you are strengthening this version of yourself. Over time, the gap between who you are now and who you want to be grows smaller and smaller. It is also important to recognize that your emotional growth benefits not only you, but everyone around you. When you become more emotionally aware and balanced, you contribute to a more understanding environment in your home, your friendships, your workplace, and your community. You become someone who can listen without rushing to judge, who can stay present during conflicts, and who can offer support without losing themselves. These qualities are deeply needed in the world. As you move beyond this audiobook, consider how you might want to continue your learning. Perhaps you will explore other books or audiobooks that deepen specific skills, such as communication, relationships, or mindfulness. Maybe you will join groups or communities where people share similar goals for personal growth. You might also choose to work with a therapist, coach, or mentor to receive more personalized guidance. There is no single correct path. What matters is that you keep nurturing your development in ways that feel right for you. Before we say goodbye, take one more slow, deep breath. As you inhale, imagine that you are inviting in self-awareness, compassion, and courage. As you exhale, imagine that you are releasing a little bit of tension, self-doubt, or harsh judgment. You do not have to transform your life all at once. You simply need to keep taking small steps in the direction of greater emotional clarity and connection. If at any point you feel discouraged or tempted to give up on this path, remember why you started. Maybe you were tired of feeling stuck in shyness or insecurity. Maybe you wanted deeper relationships. Maybe you sensed that there was a wiser, more confident version of you waiting to emerge. That intention is still inside you. It can guide you whenever you feel lost. Thank you for choosing to walk this part of your journey with these ideas and practices. Your willingness to look within, to question old patterns, and to invest time and energy in your emotional growth is something truly meaningful. Even if the world does not always see or celebrate this inner work, it is shaping the quality of your life in profound ways. If you wish to continue exploring topics like emotional intelligence, social skills, and personal growth, remember that Momentum Audiobooks offers other audiobooks and resources designed to support your development. You can keep expanding your knowledge, finding new perspectives, and strengthening the habits that help you live with more awareness, confidence, and connection. As we come to the end of this audiobook, carry with you one simple message. You are not defined by your past reactions, your moments of shyness, or your old stories about who you are. You are a changing, learning human being, capable of growth at any age and in any situation. Emotional intelligence is not something you either have or lack. It is something you cultivate, step by step, through the choices you make every day. And with each small, conscious choice, you are already becoming the person you aspire to be.